The real story now. Senator Bernie Sanders defying the odds and the polls, narrowly defeating Hillary Clinton last night in Michigan. Huge upset, breathing new life now into the Sanders campaign. But next up are two key states. And if the latest polls there are correct, you know, we've got to say that with a grain of salt now, Clinton still has the edge. Let's check it out. Florida. New Quinnipiac poll shows Hillary Clinton leading Sanders 62 to 32% among likely voters. Ohio. Another winner-take-all primary. Clinton leads Sanders 52 to 43%. For more now on the Sanders surge, time to bring in Chris Plante, syndicated radio talk show host, and Leslie Marshall, syndicated radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor. Okay, Leslie, you're on the Dem side. What happened last night?
Well, first of all, the polls weren't right, which is why we can't put all of the stock in the polls. Another thing is, I think that Bernie did much better in the debate than a lot of people, myself included, would have thought. When you look at where he did well and who he did well with, his talking against TPP, against NAFTA, which was not Hillary but Bill Clinton when he was president, he really resonated with, as Donald Trump did, with regard to jobs and to trade the blue-collar workers. He did well in Flint when he called out the politicians there, and he even did well in Dearborn, where there is a huge number of Arab Muslim voters, and he even did well, more so, with African Americans than anyone would have predicted.
Okay.
Certainly was an upset, and it helped Senator Sanders going forward, no question.
Okay, so Chris, let me dig a little deeper into some of these polls. Let's look at gender. Men tend to back Sanders 53 to 44%. Women go to Clinton 59 to 34%. And then let's go to Ohio now. Voters 18 to 44, they go to Sanders, no surprise there, 65 to 34%, while Clinton leads 64 to 29% among voters 45 to 64 years old, and 68 to 24% among voters who are older than that, older than 65. Then there's this one. Women go to Clinton in Michigan, 51%, Sanders 46%. Seniors, Clinton 68%, Sanders 31%. You see the trends going there, Chris. The older people tend to go for Hillary Clinton, the younger people for Bernie Sanders. I'm not sure that we've learned anything different, so then you got to wonder what happened in that poll.
Well, and it's not just that poll either. I mean, it looks like on paper Hillary should be mopping the floor with Bernie Sanders, but she's not. There was one poll, the Marshall Research poll, had her up a week ago in Michigan by 37 points.
Right.
Now, I mean, these guys should be looking for work at Home Depot at this point, but the Real Clear Politics average had her up by 21.5 points, and still she lost by 2 points. As Leslie said, don't believe the polls. Let's start with that. Secondly, Hillary is unlikable. You know, she is, for all the polling and all the paper, when people get into the booth, Hillary, you know, there's a new Edward Klein book out about Hillary. It's called, quite simply and eloquently, Unlikable.
Okay.
She is unlikable. She's a terrible candidate.
Right.
If she becomes their nominee, they're in bad shape.
I want you both to confirm or talk about this, because Fox News is just confirming that former presidential candidate Jeb Bush is set to meet with Florida Senator Marco Rubio today. You know, they were at odds, to say the least, both in Florida. Tomorrow, he's going to meet with Senator Ted Cruz and Governor John Kasich ahead of next week's big primaries in Florida and Ohio. Leslie, what does this mean?
I think it means he's shopping for what can you give me, even a VP position, because I can deliver some people in support in the state of Florida. He certainly is somebody that can deliver big donors. We've seen he does better with cash than he does with votes. But I think he should really be talking to Ted Cruz, because right now, polls again, and when you look at the states that have been won, Ted Cruz is really the only one who can, I think, go head-to-head with Donald Trump. I think it's coming down to a two-person race between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz.
And of course, Carly Fiorina endorsed Ted Cruz today, so then you have to wonder, wow, if he's the nominee, maybe she would be his VP. I mean, I don't know. So is Jeb Bush having these meetings, Chris, because he might endorse one of those three?
Well, I assume that Jeb Bush will eventually endorse one of those three. You notice he's not meeting with Donald Trump, who is the Republican frontrunner. Jeb Bush doesn't bring a lot of firepower to this. I don't think Jeb Bush wants to be vice president. It would be a step down in his family's history, of course, and he'd be the shame, the disgrace of the family if he were to become vice president. He can meet with these three. I think after next Tuesday, Marco Rubio is probably out of the race. John Kasich is not going to be in great shape if he stays in. And Leslie is correct that, I think it's coming down to a two-person race between Cruz, who nobody's supposed to like in the so-called Republican establishment,
right,
and Donald Trump, and then we'll see what happens. But look, Jeb Bush endorsement is not going to carry a lot of weight with Republicans this year, and that's an understatement.
Well, from the establishment, you may be right about that. Chris and Leslie, thank you.
Thank you, guys.